a thing that we started a couple tiers ago, and it has seemed to be a fan favorite. We're just going to go over some of the fights, our strats. We'll look a little bit of our rules and whatnot. Um, so yeah. Oh, the whole slideshow is in white, so cover your fucking eyes. So we'll talk about the raid rules, bigwigs, and DBM. We'll talk about our schedule, the heroic and mythic split groups. We'll go through the raid bosses, and then in honor of Archie, we have added an in memoriam page, so we have that. All right. So raid rules. This is literally copy pasted from the fucking raid rules that we have in this Discord. Actually, read them though, please. The big thing that we seem to have run into issues with during this past raid tier was number 3. It was our no raid, like talking during raid. It's literally not that we don't want to hear you. Like we care about what you have to say. I promise. But during raid is not really the time. So if you guys could please make an effort, if you have comments, like we want to hear them, but put them in your channel. Whisper them to somebody. Put them. If you whisper an officer, they're gonna tell you to put it in your channel. But this is going to be super important. It causes so much disruption. It slows us down. We can't pull. Then we have way too many chiefs, and it's just turns into chaos. We care. We've created a council so that we can ping ideas off of them and them us. That's what that group is specifically for. But if you have something specific, or if you're not in that and have a suggestion, like please feel free to put it in your channel. We want to hear it, just not during raid time. And it could be that we've already talked about it, and like maybe that's not a strat that we think would work best for our group, or maybe that's kind of our plan B if plan A doesn't go through or whatever. So maybe something we've already done. If you bring it up middle grade, it's just super distracting. Um, Same thing. Questions on mechanics. You can. This is not really as true these days. Like if you have a specific question, like please answer it. If you have any really big questions on it, do some fucking research. Like you can certainly ask us, but you should know the base of each of the fights. We underkill fights. You have to know where to hit your defensives. This is something that I just went into like a rampage on Queen because I feel like it's ridiculous if we don't know where to hit cooldowns. I think that this tier we're gonna do a better job of letting you guys understand where we want your defensives and whatnot. But also this is just comes from like when you look up the logs for your characters. If you go to logs, you can see where they're hitting their defensives just as much as you can see where they're hitting their cooldowns. So go through, figure out where people are hitting their shit, figure out where their big damage spikes are, and then start to move from there. The attendance. This is something that we really want to start enforcing. We want to be at the boss and getting ready to pull by 8 o'clock. Not being on at 7:45 is super rude to everybody around you. Like nobody wants to pull a trap for you while you're doing whatever. If you're running late every once in a while, totally fine. We get that. But realistically, if you're always logging in at 8 o'clock and you have a computer that's slow as shit, Vinny, um, then Vinny's missing. No, he's not. He's here. He's just muted. Sorry, buddy. But if you're like Vinny and have fucking 2 hamsters that run your computer, like you really should not be logging in at 8 o'clock, right? Come prepared. Make sure you have your shit enchanted. Have gem slots. Um, Tachi has kindly provided feasts and flasks, and he's gonna have cauldrons. But outside of that, you need to make sure that when we drop those, you're picking them up, and we're not resetting a boss so those don't go away because that's thousands of gold. But just be kind of cognizant. Improve your character. Don't just raid log. Loot distribution. This is a big one. We do a council. So if you're new here, we always do a loot council. If you don't do your we're doing the WoW audit this tier, yeah.
Yep.
So if you don't do your WoW audit and it's not updated before raid every Tuesday, you will not be considered for loot. That's the only thing that's fair. It's not good enough for you just to show up and hit best in slot. Like we expect to see numbers. We want to see how it impacts your class versus how other people are impacted by it, right? There's a lot of like trinkets and weapons that are BIS for many, many people. So in order for the guild to get the best possible upgrade, we want to see the numbers. So make sure that you guys have your WoW audit updated. If you have questions, put it in your channel. We can help you get set up if you're not sure how that goes. In any guild run, BOEs belong to the guild. We sell it. It keeps guild repairs open and allows us to continue to provide feasts and whatnot. Progression. It is mandatory to be in Discord, or you can watch it on Twitch if you really want. But you must be watching progression. You need to have all the weak auras, the add-ons. We expect you to know where you're supposed to be. Expect you to know the mechanics before you ever get called into raid. Because if we call you to step in and you're like, okay, now link me all the weak auras, that to us is ridiculous. We're just going to remove you and find somebody who paid attention, who already had the weak auras. Don't waste our time. During week clears, as long as you're reachable, that's really all we need. If you decide to go into Mythic Plus content, it's expected that you leave if we really need you. Obviously, we're not gonna like do that unless someone like DCs and we have literally no one else, but that would be something to consider just in case. So if we only have 21 people like that showed up for whatever reason, I probably wouldn't go into a key, but it's just me. We are forcing a switch to bigwigs this year. We will not be playing with the multi DBM and what affects DBM versus what affects bigwigs. Like everyone will be expected to have bigwigs this year. So that's that. You can delete your DBM and just download bigwigs. Please do it before Tuesday. All right, our schedule. So on March 4th, it opens up all of the raids. So normal, heroic, and mythic. We are not going to step into normal during our normal week if we can avoid it. So split one will be the heroic split one on March 4th. March 5th will be heroic split two, and then March 6th will be the mythic bosses. Um, we hope to get both groups through both like two mythic bosses at least. It'll get them a vault. It'll get them good experience. So that's the intention. Um, with that, make sure that your alts are up and look good. These splits can only happen in a day if you guys are prepared, right? So if you are not putting any time and your alt looks like shit and it's getting like hard carried through, we're probably not going to make it through all the bosses. So don't do your team a disservice. We all want to get through content. Make sure that your character is something that you can play. If this becomes an issue where you're not able to play your alt, we are next year going to force people to play their same class twice. So if you guys want the privilege of being able to pick and choose your secondary character, you better make sure you play that shit well. Um, we'll essentially do splits until we get stuck, then we'll move into mythic. We want to start selling heroic like as soon as possible. We'd prefer to do it after the third week of raid. We're assuming that we're gonna have everybody tiered up by that point. So we once again have the Friday slot reserved for reservations. We also, or excuse me, for selling. We also want to start selling mythic this year. So this would be one of our goals is we're gonna try and get mythic sales in sooner rather than later. And we will probably be doing normal and Friday, Saturday, and also getting AOTC on the weekend if we didn't, for whatever reason, finish it throughout. Um, so, yeah. Um, with that being said, if you guys have questions about this, comments, concerns, feel free to send them our way. But the intention is to get the most amount of people, the most amount of gear, in the quickest amount of time so that we can progress through Mythic ASAP. All right. So these are the split groups. These may change because this is like a tentative split group. These may change based on a couple of adjustments that have recently been made, but this is what it will look like right now. So you can find your name, and then it has your spot, all the things. Split group two, and then this is Mythic split one. So Cass and Rad, your alts are going to be the two that we are hoping can come in. If these alts either don't perform really well or someone else's alts perform really well, we may swap this so that someone else's alt come in. So this is, like I said, tentative. Really depends on performance here. But this is who we are anticipating. And then Mythic Split 2, we would have Brandon on his mage because we need a mage buff, and then Vinny on his paladin. Again, possible to interchange these, but so far this is where we're at. All right, so boss order. I don't know if you guys have seen how the bosses actually get pulled, but so Vexy and the Gear Grinders is always first, and then the second through the fifth boss can be pulled in any orders. You can go to any of them. We don't know what order we're going to be. The Race to World first will probably tell us. I'm missing an F there, but Race to World first will tell us what order is probably best for us. So we will probably just follow suit on like what the mass majority does based on like difficulty. But as far as like when we go through, we are going to go in this order right now based on how it is in the journal. So nothing crazy. And then the sixth boss, One Armed Bandit, seventh boss, Mugsy, and then eighth boss is the is Gallywix. All right. Notes. Anything italicized is the name of a mechanic. So if you are following along or you want to look at it, then it's on there. Asterisks are used to denote specific mythic mechanics. Tachi, I think he said he had COVID,
Oh, okay. I'm just curious.
but no. Also, this tier, we went and put our genders. in the thing so that we didn't, or I guess they're pronouns here, so that there's no confusion. So Vexy is a she/her, and then there's some robots. All right, so this is a lot of information. I have this printed out in a PDF for you if you guys want it. I didn't want to give it to you beforehand because I didn't want you being distracted and like pre-reading it and not listening. But there's a lot of stuff happening. So essentially, there are protective plating that goes on. They have to get hit by the car or by the bikers that are coming through. Um, in Mythic, when you kill one of them, it throws up an oil canister that has to be caught, and then you can use it to refill the bike so that we could then crash in. That removes the plating, essentially. When you've removed 6 platings, which is how many she starts with, um, you then go into this phase 2 like intermission phase. Um, so there's like oil slicks and stuff that we'll talk about when we look at the raid plan, but essentially the goal is to charge the bikers through an oil slick, have it kind of spin out, we DPS it down, and then someone will get in, crash it into the bike or crash it into the boss and have a protective plating get removed. These they used to on PTR, it was a DR. We aren't sure what percent it is. It doesn't say anywhere on the journal, and people haven't really talked about it a ton, so we're not sure what exactly. I think we talked about it being like an 80% DR, and then each one is like a 20%, but that didn't math super well, so I don't actually know. But it's not in the journal right now. I'm pretty sure it's a DR, so because of that, we're going to lust at phase 2, where he's taking 100% increased damage. Um, we are trying to get as close to 2 minutes as possible. He has an energy bar that I think is like the closest we can get is like 140. But as close to 2 minutes as we can. So that will probably be an interesting um, pull on whether or not we are able to um, get this done. So, anyways, there's dodge mechanics happening, a tune up. So there's small ads, the pit mechanics, and then the support rigs. Um, so we're unsure exactly what fully works, but it looks like Roots, Paralysis, and Nox currently are working for these guys. When the support rigs are out, you can't CC the pit mechanics who are actually doing the tune up thing. Um, or they do a repair, I suppose. So let me see. So oil puddles we cleared with fire puddles, they drop. So this is what it's going to start like. So we'll have 2 markers here, and then the boss also drops an oil slick. So when the raid first starts, we're going to start by a gateway, and then there's going to be 2 players to get picked with an oil slick. They're going to drop on each of the markers, and then the boss will drop here, and then the raid is going to gate to like wherever my blue is. Um, and then at that point, the bikes spawn and they allegedly spawn in the furthest location from their player. So wherever their player is, they're going to spawn in the furthest location from that. So we're thinking that we can bait them. We want them to hit the oil slicks so that they spin out over here. We can DPS them down and then run them in. We want to be careful not to run over them when we have them. We don't want to hit an oil slick with them. So because of that, um, so this DPSing, obviously oil slicks. Um, we want to drop the extra ones over here. So you don't want to drop any more oil puddles like in this area because then we wouldn't be able to send the bikers back through. So we want to drop them on the outside. And then there's like little I think they're called incendiary fires or something like that. When you run those over, they're like little tiny red fire dots. When you run them over an oil slick, it gets rid of it. So we're not going to clear these, obviously. We can clear all of these and maybe possibly these ones, and then obviously these guys over here. But that's kind of the intention right now. So this is the phase 2 / intermission. I'm not really sure. But they come from the 4 like entrances here, which is weird because this is the actual entrance. But they come from like these 4 roadways, and then in Mythic they have oil rigs that will spawn 1 additional one per intermission. Um, so these are the ones that we have tentatively. I'm not sure what order they come in or if they come in the same order every time. Um, so Ethan and Rake, you guys will be responsible for the melee ones. And then Waffle, you'll be responsible for this range one, and Nim this range one. This being like, obviously, I would like Nim to be the last one to be doing CC. So like if this group here comes out last, Nim is probably going to be CCing this one, and vice versa. So keep that in mind. This is not like hard fast rule. It's just an assumption. But as these guys are coming in, they have a circle around them. You have to CC them, and then the ads will walk out, and then the little ads are now able to be stopped from casting. So they can be stunned, they can be interrupted, really anything to them. So when they get in, we just want to really gather them up and kind of AoE them down. But obviously, our primary focus should be DPSing the boss. When intermission ends, when phase 2 ends, all of the ads go away. Don't worry about touching them. So we want the rigs literally as far away as possible because they just disappear. They are actually useless. So, any questions on Betsy? Cool. The first couple bosses are going to be a lot more in depth than the later bosses because these ones we're expecting to see on Mythic. So I want to make sure everyone's super clear. We'll go through them all, obviously, but these are a little longer, so my apologies. Um, so Florendo is a robot, and then Torque is a he/him. All right. So this is kind of another two boss or a two-phase interaction. The Colossal Clash happens at 100% energy. They clash in the middle for 20 seconds. It does fire additional damage, blah, 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 whatever. There's move your feet. There's tons of fiery waves. Just this is where we're going to do the swap. There's like a 60-yard dot that you get depending on what side of the room you're on. So you're gonna have to swap at some point. So during the colossal, we'll probably do our swap there. Also unsure if this is a good point for us to lust. I don't know what the timing looks like. I don't know if we'll like do the first one or maybe a later one. And when that happens, also unsure at what point we're going to hit the lust because obviously it's only 20 seconds. So if it like if they move at 140, like it, we probably want to wait until. Okay, well, you guys see where I'm going with it. So unsure on when the actual lust timing will happen. We'll kind of narrow that down. But on Mythic, there's tiny tussles. So when you first start the phase, there's 3 little ads that get dropped down from each side that have to be kicked to the middle. I think at 15 yards, they will like run together and then like smash themselves. Um, they leave a little dot. I don't think this would be crazy hard to deal with. It's probably just gonna be someone assigned to kick them. Probably Boomkin Hunter kind of job. Um, but if we leave them and then they clash during the intermission, they do a 500% increased damage stack that will probably rock us pretty good. When they're within 40 yards one another, they get a 99% DR, so other than during the colossal. So we want to make sure they're not that. And they also do a King of Carnage, which means that they must die. We think within 5 seconds of each other, which is a pretty small window for bosses with that much health. So we have to be really cognizant they do not share health. These are the dots that we were talking about. It's a 60-yard range. So like you're not really going to be able to stand in the middle and like multi-dot because you would get both dots and you could also get both mechanics. So we want to be really mindful of that when you guys are doing stuff. Like make sure you're not within 60 yards of each boss when you're standing. All right, start the dino. He has the blistering sprite is his dot. The scrap bomb is super important. It's this giant bomb that gets split in like amongst everybody in it. We probably want to get almost everybody in it. There's gonna be 3 in each phase that before they go into the colossal clash. Um, it does a shit ton of damage. They in PTR they were not able to um, immune soak them, so be mindful. It leaves a pool after and then sends tornadoes out. It's also a knock up. So there's like a pattern to it essentially where you're gonna have to spread right after. So just be kind of mindful. It's gonna be probably a little bit of a dance, but this is a lot of damage that's going to go out at one time. Um, the tank mechanic also sends out fiery waves, and then there's a roar cannon where he's going to target somebody, wind up. It's a cast, and then when the cast finishes, then you run out of it. So that's probably also going to be a little bit of an art form, like getting that together. It's supposed to be super fast, so as soon as the cast finishes, you have to like be running out of it, otherwise you will get hit. On Mythic, instead of like one beam, it's like 3 like beams that form a cone essentially. So it's just a little bit bigger. Torque is a gorilla. He has his own dot. And static charge will stun you if you like max out. Like you have basically like an energy bar essentially. Like every time you move, it like starts to build up. So you really have to be pretty stagnant on this side. If you keep moving, you're gonna get a giant circle around you, and if you move again, it's gonna stun you and anybody in your circle. So don't be a dick. Watch where your feet go. Um, Thundering or the Thunder Drum Salvo is literally just like a move mechanic. It kind of looks like the incendiary fire except for blue. Just move out of it. The voltaic image is going to be probably the most problematic thing that happens over there. They fixate a player on for 12 seconds, and if they explode, they do a nasty amount of damage. Plus, they silence and pacify you within 10 yards. So it leaves like a puddle on the ground. So we kind of want to group them together almost. And on Mythic, even if you CC them, they still detonate after 12 seconds. For Stun Heroic, they just kind of go away. And then the Lightning Bash is just a tank mechanic. So we're going to split the raid in half. They must be separated. We have kind of a diagram of what we'd like it to look like. Try and kick them early so that we don't really have any left over, but also making sure we're mindful of the dots. First, less will likely happen in the first Colossal, but unsure. And then obviously the bosses share HP. So Giant Soak, 8 to 10. These are kind of all the things I've already touched on. We'll probably start assigning once we get a better flow on Torque. We'll probably assign chains, mass grip, stuns, things like that in order to get them all grouped together. But yeah, making sure we're keeping movement to a minimum. And on this side, the roar cannon, I didn't say this, the roar cannon actually reaches all the way to the other side. So you really have to be careful where you point it because that bitch is infinite in length. So be mindful not to point it at the other direction. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. We're going to kind of be spread out. So this group is a little more stacked because we're baiting bombs and whatnot. This group's a little more spread so that we don't accidentally drop shit on each other. But both of the bosses leave stuff on the ground, so we have kind of a pattern in which we would like to see it go. So we have the frontal cone here. This is the knock. The thundering south. This is like the best patterning to run it in. Make sure you're not like just running. You will get stunned by the end. So like it should be like stutter steps to get around. Um, the on red boss, these are what the circles we would like them to look like. For healing purposes, try not to go like to bumfuck. But they kind of fixate a player and then move out. If we can get them CC'd on the outside, that would be best. Versus dropping them in here because it is a giant silence puddle, so that kind of sucks. These are the little toy mechanics. You just kick them to the middle. Let's see. And then this is where we switch sides. So we would like, in a perfect world, we would like to, um, we would like to see these be dropped here. So I think the next one, yeah. So bomb 1, 2, 3, again, perfect world. So in the first intermission, we'll be on this here, and then opposite here, and then the second one we'll have boss here, and then another boss here, and then on the third one we would be kind of perfectly in between. Again, perfect world. Hoping that the bombs bait where we want them to bait. Is that always going to happen? Probably not, but that would be what we would like to see. So yeah, and then switch sides, and then this is kind of our in between. Any questions on Cauldron of Carnage? All right, Rick is a he him. Okay, Rick is going to be a lot of coordination. He amplification drops an amplifier, which is basically the pylons that are going to be pretty important to the entire thing. Mythic is going to be a lot more challenging than Heroic because in Mythic there's a feedback nullifier, which is a shield that protects the pylons from losing power until two players come over and touch using their faulty zap. So players get selected with faulty zap, and then they run over, and then they have to break the feedback nullifier. It is an 8-yard range, so you have to be basically underneath it when you guys break, and then we can now go through and drain it. The blowout is when it hits like max, and it's basically just a one. Like we'll just die. Resonant echoes, they're little ground echo things that go across the ground. You really have to dodge them. They get sent out by the amplifiers. If you get hit by 2, you'll become entranced, which is just a charm for a minute, or we have to do damage to break them out. And then there's dots going out based on how many amplifiers there are, and then haywires are reaching full energy. So echoing chant causes resonant echoes, so he can also send them out. And then there's a sound cannon. So the sound cannon is pointed at a player, and then we essentially have to like mostly get in. Like we try and get a bunch of people in there because it is spread. And if you drop below 75% while you're in that line, you will also get entranced. So you also get charmed. On heroic, the faulty zap is like just move away. On mythic, we want to get over to a amplifier and make sure that we are breaking the feedback nullifier. um, there's gonna be little ads that have to be killed. When you attack them, you actually gain a haste and a movement speed buff. And then they're also doing grand finale cast, which will kill us if it goes off. It's 15 seconds long. Resonance, the boss is close, that's fine. The tank frontal, or the tank ability is a frontal cone, so make sure you see it. It is not easy to see, so be really mindful, and the boss is going to be moving a lot because every time he drops an amplifier, we have to move. Um, so be mindful of the damage increase from that.
It's literally his auto attack. Every time he
Yeah,
autos, he's gonna do like a little like shotgun blast.
yeah. So, okay, so his intermission, essentially, he goes up, he takes 99% reduced damage for 32 seconds. It's called Sound Cloud. And in that, he is putting a blaring drop. He's like sending out a wave of like, it looks like the fucking Queen Anseric green waves, except for it's sonic. So when you get into the or the pylon that's at like full capacity, it knocks you up in the air and then you don't get hit by it. So it's pretty easy. You'll see it. You can also use it to send you to the next one. So just make sure that you are looking for the next one and get knocked in that general direction. There's literally nothing to do but dodge and get into the correct pylon. Hype fever. The third one is an enrage. So after the third one, we've hit enrage and we basically are dead. This is a weak or boss in the sense that you guys will be assigned um, things to soak, and then but what we'll be calling like odd group soak. So if you're like the first person in the list, you go to your color and you soak it, or evens, and same thing you'll go over. There's two people assigned each pylon. Um, so it's pretty simple from that capacity. You have to keep the boss away from the pylons after 15 yards. So melee, you are going to have kind of shitty uptime on that capacity. And then dodge the boss frontal, and then during the intermission, just make sure we're getting knocked up in the direction and try and get knocked towards the next one, and also moving your feet. This was a very long. So I don't need to go through like these individually, but essentially, like this is where we're gonna start the boss. He's gonna drop his first one there. We want a pair to drop here to break the shields. Um, and then our second drops will be will be the melee one. It drops on a melee, like well, under himself essentially on the boss, and then on a range. So the range are baiting. We're gonna have markers, and so we'll drop them on the boss here, and then the other one will be on range. So then we want to obviously break these again. Same thing. We're kind of going down in a line here. So melee, range, cool. They touch, they break, awesome. Um, Then from here, we'll probably be in an intermission. Obviously, we're missing like the ads and all the things. And then coming out of intermission, we're going to do a melee drop here as the first one. So now we'll have all of those. Like we kind of that, right? Um, so good, good, good. And then coming out of that, once we have little things, we're going to do a drop here. And again, this is where we need to kill, but this is essentially how we talked about it. But okay, so we started. I don't think Yeah. So these are the groups for one of them. One of the things I don't know which split group this is, but essentially this is one of the split groups where they're responsible for like soaking. So these would be the odd group that are responsible for soaking, and the even group here responsible for soaking. Um, so yeah. Any questions on that? It like sounds a lot more confusing than it is. If you watch the video, it's a lot less confusing. But this is the strat we are going to attempt. All right. Sticks. Sticks is a he him. All right, this is a giant trash room. There are small, medium, and large, and you're essentially just trying to manage that trash and kill the boss um, during that period. So rolling rubbish is there are gonna be four people. They get a ball. They need to roll over trash piles. You start on a small ball, and then as you roll over small trash, you then get turned into a medium ball, and then you roll over medium trash, and then you get turned into a large ball. And then um, one person needs to hit the bomb, and we would like everyone else to hit the boss. It does boss percent. It does up to 1% of his health every time. So one person at the beginning, because obviously there's gonna be more bombs like the longer we're in. Um, but one person at the beginning needs to hit the bomb with a large trash pile, or excuse me, rolling rubbish, and then the other ones we would like to hit the boss. You'll be assigned a marker based on like a quadrant essentially with a marker based on your class. So you'll have a pretty good idea of where you'll be in the room. You can kind of pre-position over there, and you want to get over there as quickly as possible. You don't have a lot of time that you're in there. Like I think it's like 20 seconds or something, right, Bo? I can't remember the
Yeah.
exact number. I think it's somewhere on the sheet, but it's in one of the pictures. But you don't have a ton of time, so you really need to move and making sure you're being efficient on your trash piles. Um, there is garbage piles. It can be a knock. If you get hit by it, don't get hit by it. This is the big bomb that must be exploded by a large rolling rubbish. So make sure you do that. Breaking it will still do damage, but if it's not, we'll die because there's no expiration to the dot when it goes off. Um, there are territorial bombshells, so these are like little garbage pile bombs. They don't move and they're immune to CC until they reach 75%. So after 30 seconds, they explode, doing a ton of damage, and they kill themselves. But running over run with a large enough rubbish pile, which I think it just needs to be a medium one, gets rid of them and destroys, but it also destroys the rolling rubbish. So we don't really want to do that if we can avoid it because it um, gets rid of our trash pile, which means we can't use it on the boss. You can just kill these. So once it gets to 75% health, we can now CC it and it moves. The mythic mechanic here is a prototype power coil. It is like a fucking monster-sized 10-second dot that starts slow and ramps by 30% per stack at a 0.5-second interval. That means that after 10 seconds, it's doing 600% more damage. Pop a fucking defensive. I think I put that in our thing, actually. Pop a fucking defensive. Don't be a jackass. Cleanup crew. This is where he calls in a bunch of ads. There's a lot of abilities that are going in. There's scrap rockets that have unavoidable damage. Dumpster dive, picks a player, jumps there. Recycler, locks on, and inflicts it's just a damage. Just dodge it. The junkyard hyenas have infected bites. They do a ton of damage and healing, but it's a disease, so it's spellable. The incinerator just shoots at random people over 3 seconds. Just dodge it. If it hits a garbage pile, it does become hot garbage, which is like a giant pile of hot garbage. It's like a fire thing, essentially. And it leaves a fire puddle that is a dot. So while it's up, it has toxic fumes, and for each one, it stacks and it does a dot. Or it leaves a dot, I suppose.
It is really bad. So we want
yeah.
none of those.
Yeah, but I mean, it's unavoidable, but like the minimum amount. Because sometimes he just lights them on fire when we come out of it. Overdrive is his intermission. He goes back into the trash compactor and he takes 99% reduced damage, starts doing countless overcharge bolts. It's just like a 3-yard circle. Just dodge it. And then once he's done with that, he's going to do a ton of damage in his immediate 15 yards and then 6.7 to everybody else. So probably a nice AMS or some shit, whatever Tachi's decided there, but damage. And then he's going to increase his attack speed by 25% and summon more piles of Doom Explosives and Scrap Masters and get additional garbage piles. So it's obviously like a very quickly spiraling boss fight. So speed is going to be kind of the name of the game here. So it'll be separated into 4 sections. There's going to be a star, an orange, a purple, and a green. So I put pop a fucking defensive on prototype power core. You'll take 22 million damage in 10 seconds. And there are 3 pylons. This is not healable. You need to pop a defensive. If you die without popping a defensive, we are removing you. So this is my one warning that you get. If you see a prototype power coil on you, you better pop a defensive. If one of the healers saves somebody who doesn't pop a defensive, you're also getting yelled at.
But Sam, what if we don't have a
No,
defensive?
you're so annoying. All right. Oops. So these are just pictures of what the little trash looks like. Of white crabs, I guess. So the bombs here, boss can be wherever. But this is just literally a picture. Comes in different sizes. So 20 seconds. So you have 20 seconds to get through. Regardless of where you are, you will just come off the ball. So make sure you have hit the boss. Try really hard to get to a large ball and hit the boss. 1%. I mean, if we can get 3% during the first phase, 2%, just like that's a lot. So try and make sure we're doing that. If people run over you while you're in the ball, it does stun you for a second. So like try not to get ran over too, and also try not to be a jackass about it. You can roll over trash, and it will pop them back out when you crash. Other than the one territorial guy, it'll pop them out and they take like a damage increase. So yeah. People also get circles on them. Make sure you guys don't step on any of the trash piles. That will light them on fire. So if you get the circle, like make sure you don't drop them on trash piles, please. And then the shooter ads are pretty nasty, so make sure we're kind of bringing those in and killing those. Any questions? All right. Sprocket Monger, Lock and Stock. This is a he/him. All right. This is a super scripted fight. There's a ton of mechanics, and I did not write them all out. So if you want to see them all, go look them up. But honestly, this is going to be like the most scripted fight that we have. The bombs are always in the same place. All the mechanics are always in this, like, it's literally super scripted. So we're just gonna follow the weak core. It'll tell you, it prioritizes class and the bombs and all the things. It's literally doing whatever. On Mythic, it gets a little more challenging because there is a polarization generator. So instead of just standing wherever in X, Y, and Z classes, you now are either blue or red. And if you run into someone of the other color, it'll start knocking you and playing ping pong, and like it takes a ton of damage. So like obviously try not to do that. The thing that makes it complicated, there's two things. The first thing is that it will change, so it switches your polarization regularly throughout the fight. And the other things is on Mythic, you need to make sure that you're only breaking the same color as you are. So make sure you don't accidentally step on any of them. Make sure that if you're assigned to one, you actually break it so that any mechanics don't break it. That will cause us to take lethal damage and die. There's an intermission where we get knocked back and then we have to run up the sides and dodge. Like this is a lot of like dodging and just kind of being mindful of the other raiders. Something that Tachi pointed out is you won't see the other people who have your color. They'll just have something over their head. The people of the opposite color will have the circle showing. So if I'm red, it'll show me all the blue circles, but it won't show me the red people's circles. It'll just show me a little marker over their head. So be mindful of that. Unstable explosion. This is when you pop a bomb. It does damage, and it also increases the damage taken by them by 450% for 2 seconds. So just make sure that there's a pause in between the bombs. Again, follow your weak aura. It should handhold you. That'll be pretty easy. There's always 2 sections that are electrified at any given point. It's called wire transfer. Screw up is where players get marked with a drill. It comes out of the ground, stuns, and causes a bleed for 6 seconds. So again, mindful. So stage 2, he does the beta launch. He throws us all away from him. There's tons of shit coming down. There's healing absorbs and like disorients and shit like that. So we're just gonna have to be mindful. And then after every phase, he increases damage done by 15%. So again, a boss that we probably want to kill sooner rather than later. I just put that we need a, this is more of a note for me, that we need a lock gate on each side. So here is our thing. So we have the 4 bombs that need to be walked over to explode them. They give a debuff. They do give a debuff, so you can't like walk over, like you can't walk over the same one. And then a 2-second pause in between. There's like fire lasers that happen. There's also void lasers that happen. The drills are popping up. There's rockets coming out from turrets. This is a sliding thing. This is a sliding thing. This is a like there's lots of shit moving here. This talks about the bomb sets. There's magnets that also go along the middle and they'll kind of suck you into them, so be mindful of that. And then so yeah. All right. Questions on this boss?
Just a comment for people that those in the middle of that map there are 2 holes, aka be careful warriors charging. We found out that the hard way.
That was the most warrior note of all time. Okay. So one-armed bandit. This is undefined. It's a robot. All right, so he does spin to win, which he drops 3 adds out, and we need to kill 2, and then determine what the fabulous prize is going to be based on what coins we insert. So after the ad dies, is going to drop a coin or have a coin that we need to pick up, and we need to like put into him essentially, and then it'll create different rewards based on whatever combination we put in. If we don't put them in fast enough, or we put the same combination that we've already done, there's a permanent 500% damage buff, so obviously just lethal. There are different ads that come out based on like what the fabulous prize is. There also are like lines that are okay. It's called a pay line. There's a giant coin that's gonna roll around the ground. If you get close to it but don't get hit by it, I think. Okay, so there's a giant coin. You need to be near them but not get rolled over by one. If you get rolled over by one, I think it's a 10 or an 8-second dot. Yeah, an 8-second dot, not a dot. A stun that you will sit there for 8 seconds and also take 10.4 million physical damage. So if it doesn't outright kill you, you'll probably die within that 8 seconds by something else. If you stand near the path, it does 10% damage and healing increase, as well as 30% movement speed for 15 seconds. So that's pretty cool. So you want to be near it. On Mythic, you also need to hit the ads that come out with the pay line. So the Dark Line Cuirass is the I guess the mechanic that says you have to hit it with the pay line in order to get it below 25%. So from 100 to 75%, good to go. 25 and below, you must hit it with the pay line before you can start. Overload is an uninterruptible cast. Withering Flames is a spellable cast that sends tornadoes. Electric Blast, 6-second dot on different players. Kind of all just different things at the activate the Fabulous Prize. And then after each spin, he gains a 5% attack speed and effect stacks. All right. The big hit is a tank damage that leaves a circle on the ground, but on Mythic, it also leaves additional shocking fields. It'll also choose an additional player, so it's going to hit a tank and also an additional player, and have them drop a puddle. I guess not hit, but it's going to have them drop a puddle. Drop these on the outside, please. Make sure you run them out. You should not be dropping these in the middle. Cheat to Win is his stage 2 essentially. I think it's at 40%, where he goes into his. This is like a. I mean, this is our enrage, right? From this point, you only have a certain amount of time to kill him. So from here, he's picking his own order. It's obviously like he'll choose hot, 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 which is 3 flames. It'll mark random players, explode after 5 seconds, and send a line of players. Scattered Payout is 3 coins. It'll do basically damage every 2 seconds till destroyed. And then Explosive Jackpot is 3 bombs, which will cause the final explosion, killing everyone. And this is the Enrage. Oh, and I forgot, excuse me, the 3 Shock is the Hyper Coils. So yeah, a lot of shit going on. It feels like a lot of mechanics, but I think once we see it, again, we'll have a weak order that's going to track like our order. So it'll say like pick up X coin and put it in the boss, but we'll help you be helping you through. Your big things are making sure that you're not getting hit by the coin, and that we'll have people assigned to roll the coins likely. We want to roll them kind of through the boss when needed. They roll out from him, and then when we roll them one time, they will hit the wall. And when they hit the wall, they are done and explode. While they're out, they leave a dot, so we don't just want to leave them kind of indefinitely, and it stacks, so we want to be mindful of that. The one arm in this strat, there's 3 strikes and you're out. If you get hit by the coin 3 times, you are no longer allowed to try and get the buff. It's going to be a super irritating thing for, I'm sure, all of us, to see someone get stunned over and over again. There's a pretty obvious blue line that you just need to not be in, just near. So I don't think it's super hard to mechanic, but if you get hit by it 3 times, we're just going to remove you and put someone else in who can dodge it. All right. So this is actually what the pay lines look like, so that's cool. So they'll target random players, non-tanks, they'll shoot it out, and then you step over near it. It's going to go to the wall and then hit, and then we have somebody run over, click it, and then send it back. You can shoot in whatever direction. So we could even like shoot it from here straight into the wall. So pretty simple. These are what the ads look like. 3 ads that spawn. Each ad has a different color over its head. There's like other things going on here, but this is the essential thing. You can't have the same combo twice. It will kill us. Okay. So in P2, after all of them have been, at 30%. After all the coins have been dunked or at 30%, he's going to go into P2. And then every time his energy gets filled, he's going to start his next mechanic. And then after the 3rd one, it's going to start the Enrage, which kills you through all immunities. So these are kind of it. These are blue circles or blue lines that get spawned between the pylons themselves to him essentially, and they're pretty lethal. I think they do 0.3-second interval damage. That's lethal just for like 1 tick of it. So like even if you're trying to run through it, like you'll never make it. So dodge that. Okay. Questions on One Armed Bandit? All right. Muggsy, heads of security. When they're together, they're they them individually. Both Mug and Z are he hims. Okay. So there's a fuck ton of mechanics. Like, and I feel like I've said it a lot, but like they both have a lot of mechanics, and on Mythic they interact together. So kind of be mindful of that. So when they take turns being head honcho during stage 1, where one of them, or like on one side of the room essentially, and one of them, their mechanics is dictating, and then in phase 2 and stage 2, they are combined and they're both doing their mechanics at the same time. So stage 1 is going to feel like a lot of mechanics. Stage 2 is put them all together. Mug has different mechanics than Z. Mug has the elemental carnage, and so he's more elemental, and then Z has like the fiery bullshit. They both have stacking dots. It's called Moxie, so increase 1% every 5 seconds. At 100% energy, if we haven't switched sides yet, he'll do double-minded fury, and we'll just die. All right, so Mug, he has his carnage. Doesn't mean anything other than when we step on his side of the room, it does a giant thing, and we have 2 minutes before we can cross back to the other side. He has the jail, right? So these are the Earthshaker jails. We want to drop them on either side of the boss. It splits the damage within 8 yards evenly, and then it keeps you in his little like 4-section jail essentially. You have to interrupt the pay respects. There's also a frontal happening, a shakedown. And if you overlap with the boss or another one of the Earthshakers, they will enrage, essentially go into a 100% damage increase. So there are a couple of things happening here. So we use the Frost Shatter Spears to break these, which encases your feet in blocks, so you're going to be sliding, but you want to launch them through one of the walls. Your boots will still stay encased in blocks until you step into Hot Mess, which is one of the mechanics from the other side. So yeah. Encase your feet in blocks and then launch the spear. You do not want to get hit by the spear. 41.9 million damage. That's a lot. So through the wall, and making sure that that's where you make contact. Something of note, when he dies, when the Earthshaker dies, he does like a circle. You can lockate out of that section, like you can lockate out between the walls, so you don't have to worry about like dying to that essentially, because there's an eruption at the end. In Heroic, it breaks the walls, but in Mythic, it does not. All right. All right. Z has, this is her version of it. You walk on the other side. She does all this damage, and then we can't cross back for 2 minutes. They spawn unstable crawler mines. These mines are basically scattered. They fixate on players and they detonate. Okay, well that's not. Anyway, when they come into contact with them, they are lethal on Mythic, so you have to be really careful. When they explode, they break into unstable cluster bombs. It has 4 clusters per that must be caught. It is also lethal if 1/2 of them get not caught, essentially. At 100% energy, they become immune to CC and gain 200% speed, so they gonna be fast. Originally, they're super slow. So at first, they start like at a crawl almost, and then they will turn into not a crawl. There's a group soak. They must hit 5 players. So this is where we're just gonna kind of move together. And then it leaves behind a hot mess, which is what you would use to clear your feet from the other zone. That makes sense. After you get hit by this, we're going to have 2 groups essentially, because after you get hit by it, it's going to leave a 500% increase for 3 minutes. So there's that. Spray and Pray is the same as the other. I kind of skipped through his, but he has a same thing. Where did he put the Storm Fury finger guns, the frontal cone that he kind of spins around and shoots shit. The Molten Gold Knuckles is a tank mechanic. It's also a frontal cone, so beware of that. Sorry, skip back. But the Spray and Pray is his version of it. It's just a spray. It will detonate unstable crawler mines. The Electroshocker is an add. It has a shield that will maintain its shield until it's hit by the Storm Fury finger gun. It does a couple mechanics. It does a lot of damage. At 80% though, it becomes stunned, so it's probably going to be prio. Unsure really how this is going to be dealt with, but yeah, so we'll have to see what that looks like. The double whammy shot is a high caliber round. It leaves the perforating wound, and when it explodes, it has the explosive payload. All right. So the crawler mines, anytime they're detonated, all the players hit are stunned for 2 seconds, and the explosive payload means it explodes after 6 seconds, detonating mines within 15 yards, which is a good thing. we need things to explode the mines that are not people. On Mythic, on Heroic, it literally, I think people are just running through it, but on Mythic, you cannot do that. At 40%, Mug and Z start to work together, and then they basically pull in all of their mechanics from phase 2. It divides the arena in 2, and it'll kill anybody who touches it. It basically just, it's an enrage. So it's not an enrage. It's like, again, it's mostly like we're trying to fight through before he takes our space away. Blah, blah, blah. Haste increased. All right. So the raid plan that's here is not the raid plan we're using. So I'm not going to actually send this through. I think Instant Dollars does the strat that we liked. If I'm not mistaken, is it the Instant Dollars or that other guild? I can't remember their name. But I will send it out amongst here. It's essentially to start on Mythic. We're gonna start very pixel stacked in the very middle, but a little bit more on the mine side. And then we're all gonna spawn them together and then run straight in a line, like down the center line toward like to the wall essentially, and then we'll keep them coming. The tank frontal breaks the mines as well. So we are going to try and get rid of them doing that, and then we'll go out and do our soaks and whatnot. So when I find it, I'll send it to you. It's my favorite of the strats I've seen. I don't love the strat that Consequence put out, which is why I said like this is not one of my favorite raid plans. But yeah. All right. Gallywix is a key him. He's an asshole. There's not a lot of information about him right now. There's no videos. There's all kind of speculation. So you can read your journal. I put like some of his intermission. All they had when I first looked at it was the intermission. Now they have intermission in phase 1. So that's really all that's left. But yeah. Any questions on any of the bosses? Okay. So then, Archie, are you here? Did you leave?
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
Really good.
Okay. So
Oh my
you
god, I'm
guys can thank
crying.
Archie from you can thank Archie for the memoriam page. But this is really all we have. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys coming in. I know that it's not super fun to sit and watch a PowerPoint for an hour. Hopefully you took something from it. If you guys have questions, again, any questions, please send them our way. Don't show up to raid on Tuesday not knowing what the fuck is going on. Like, even if this wasn't enough for you, if you don't learn like this, whatever, it's fine. Go watch a fucking video. Coming in and saying, look, like, well, I learned best by doing is literally never going to work, right? You can learn and you can make mistakes. That's totally fine. But not having prepared at all is just not good enough anymore. We have 29 other people who are prepared and doing the work. So make sure that you are not letting everybody else down, please. Asher, do you have something to say?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Which week or a pack are we using, and is it linked in the channel yet?
We will be using the Northern Sky. I don't think we're going to touch the liquid one this year. I think we were kind of unhappy
thank
with it.
God. Okay. Okay. Cool. Is it in the thing yet? I haven't looked.
No.
I think it is actually.
Did you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's in there.
Yep.
Okay. Sweet.
So yeah, and we'll be I'm gonna put this PDF. I will put this PDF somewhere, probably in the weak orders and macros, just so it doesn't get lost. I'll put the PDF in there so you guys can have it and kind of refer back to it if you want it. And then in the meantime, I will put some good videos that I've found in each of the channels for them. So if you guys wanted to go back through and kind of look at what we had looked at to find strats and things that we thought were good, so I'll absolutely do that. But I think that's all I have. Oh, backtrack. Tachi obviously is going to be responsible for healing cooldowns. We would like them to be a lot more organized this tier. So with that being said, like make sure that you are looking at the note. There is an add-on. What's the MRT add-on that does the announcement? Anybody know off the top of their head? That announces your cooldown.
Cages or something.
So isn't that a weak or not add-on?
Maybe it's a weak one.
It's a
It's a week.
I think it
Kaze,
is
that's
Kaze,
it.
isn't it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Kaze will announce to you. It'll say like use a personal or AMZ or rally or whatever the fuck it is. So instead of Boet like being relied on for it, you can hear it in your own fucking ear. It'll say your name with your cooldown at that time. You can have it give you a 5-second cooldown or a countdown or a 3-second. I don't care. But make sure you have that. It is not Tachi's responsibility to go and tell you that you missed your rally or you missed your AMZ. Obviously, these are just examples, darkness, whatever it could be, or your personal. It is your job to know when those things are meant to be hit. He's putting in the work. He's making sure that the healing cooldowns are all set. So if you die because you didn't hit your things where they're supposed to, or whatever it is, like that's not on us. So make sure that you guys are being respectful of that. Getting Kaze, it'll literally ping your ear. You can hear it. It's super easy. So
2 quick notes on that. I don't have anything scheduled for heroic, depending on how well PTR testing went and which hour that they were testing. The damage varies wildly. So we're heroic. We're going to be mostly seeing and looking at our own logs to see where damage was. So you probably won't see anything on heroic. And for mythic, especially for later bosses, like most people to this day still don't know that when you pop the circles on queen, that's not what does damage. A lot of people are popping defensives there. Then you land, you get a big dot. That's the dot is where the damage is, not the pop. So we'll cover things like that before we actually start a boss. Because the goal this tier, we want to, kind of like we did this week on queen, we want to start dropping healers once we fully cleared, and start like working on speed kills and get more people in for loot and things like that. So it's going to be very important that people understand where the damage is and what is very important to try to survive.
We all know you just want to parse, Tachi.
It's for everyone's parse. In most cases, even the DPS are going to have dramatically improved parses by underhealing things and just killing the boss faster. So
cool. Bo, you got anything to add, buddy? Go ahead.
There's only 4 alts that are going to be used for the mythic splits, right?
So on the on here, we only need, so because of how many people we have, so we have 30 raiders, right? So we actually only need 2, so it's 15 if you math. But because of how the tanks and the healers will both be using their alts. But as far as like core raiders, there's actually we only need 2 alts from that like group. This is weird, sorry. So we only need 2 for that group. So if you think this is kind of where I got to, is like this is who we're anticipating, but like blow me out of the water. Like I don't care. I don't give a shit whose alt is there. Shit, if you can do more damage than fucking Vinny's main, you can take his spot too.
What the fuck?
God damn.
Just kidding, Vinny. I love you, Puppy Mod.
Good,
Bo,
Vinny
anything to add,
goes
buddy?
in the memorandum.
That's 2 now.
No, just
shots?
make sure we're actually looking at videos. This is a good starting point with the PowerPoint, but make sure you're watching videos on Tuesday. Like, if you can, watch Race to World first, see what they're doing. If you see anything that's interesting, different than what we're planning on doing, put in your channel. Just make sure you're up to date on everything, and let's fucking kill it this year.
I have a
Are we
question.
gonna? Oh, go ahead.
Do you think it's possible to push for Hall of Fame this season?
if you
If
look
you
at the
guys do
numbers
your
from
shit.
last season, so keep in mind every week that we had down, like so we had I think about 3 weeks total off. Every week that we had off, we came back and had to like get back into the swing. And if you account for all of that, we were Hall of Fame adjacent last year.
Would it
It
require
is-
us to be like holding lockout sooner though?
Not necessarily. It's an aspiration, right? And I think we can get there. And I think we are pretty close to it. It's just, it really depends on you guys. It depends on how fast you guys learn, how fast we can prog, how fast we can kill bosses without like bullshit, like fucking around.
If
Like,
we lose an entire night on Brood Twister every week because the weak R is fucking up.
right, weak aura bosses are a thing, and I'm sure shit will break. But
Yeah, no more
if we
weddings.
can, no more weddings.
I
If we
can't
can
promise
really
you guys
push through
anything.
Well.
bullshit like that,
Yeah.
then yes, that's a possibility. But we're not like gonna kill ourselves over it. We're still gonna play our game. We're still gonna have
Speak for
fun.
yourself.
Okay, we're still gonna
Dying.
have fun and do this shit. But yeah, we're gonna pretty.
I think
close
that's
to it.
always our goal, right? Our goal is always to improve, and I think that like Tachi kind of brought up, like we took off like essentially 4 weeks, not including the time it took us to come off, like between like holidays and like the wedding. We took off a ton of time. I think that had we killed it a month sooner, I mean, we would have been pretty fucking close.
It would, yeah, it would have been pretty damn close.
Eva, you had a question?
Um, when you guys, while Race the World First is going to be happening, are we going to be implementing Echo and Liquid strats that we see?
Probably if we see one we think will work better for us.
A lot of times they stack classes, so not all their strats are always viable for
Yeah.
other people.
But yeah, I mean, their
Assuming
first couple days typically splits. Sorry, go ahead.
The general idea of
Yeah.
their strategies, like if like they're stacking here, going and moving the boss this way and that way.
Positioning wise, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually pretty good.
I'd also
Yeah,
like
that
to
go-
point
that
out
goes-
here,
That just
the
goes hand in
raid and, like,
hand. Go ahead.
I don't know if y'all want to talk. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Assuming we clear the raid in the Hall of Fame adjacent or whatever time frame, and we start wanting to sell mythics, are we going to gear more characters or like gear like another character or two more characters and do mythic raid on those as well? Are there
If
any
you
plans
guys
for
can
that?
maintain 2 fucking classes, we can sell shit ASAP. The more we
Yeah.
can raid, the better we're going to be, right? Like, what you'll notice a lot about Hall of Fame guilds is it's not really that they're better per se, they just raid 4 or 5 times a week. So, like, if we raid 2 to 3 days a week, and they're raiding 4 or 5 times a week, like, they're damn near doubling our pull count, right? So, like, if we were like, hey, we want to sell Mythic on Fridays instead of Heroic, like, fuck, that's only going to make us better. So if everyone wants to do that, then we have like an alt run, but everyone's alts need to not be embarrassing because they won't let us sell if we're embarrassing. I think both Bone and I would be fully on board with that.
Okay.
Question. Actually, since we're
Answer?
talking about it, are we going back to 3 days with the Wednesday, or what's happening with that?
Yep.
Okay,
And we're I don't think we're dropping until post CE this time.
cool.
Yeah, we're staying 3 days.
Copy that.
Yeah, and I'd also like to point out, talking about the how quickly we're going to clear the raid. We have quite an impressive roster this tier. Every single person on this roster beat out a dozen other applicants to be on this roster. So if you are here and you are raiding, there were people that were told no that had pretty impressive logs that also wanted your spot. So we should have a really strong team going into this.
Bo, anything else to add, buddy?
We are still planning on doing sales on Fridays. During raid time.
Please.
I'm just saying.
I
Friday,
already
there's gonna be
added that.
Just saying. To reiterate.
Look,
I
it's right there.
understand. That was an hour ago. People have lost their fucking mind by now.
Oh my god.
We're too
So-
busy being flashbanged by that white background.
Bang.
Good.
Oh. But. Yeah,
Brandon, anything to add?
that's about it.
If you see within the first few weeks that you are doing okay, but you know you could do better, and it's a maybe they changed something about your class, or can't figure out what's going on by yourself looking at log-wise stuff, just ask me and we'll go over it together.
It's what your channels are for, right? So please use your channels as much as you want. Just know that we see everything and we'll get to you as soon as we can.
Can we go over Vexia again? It was like an hour ago and I don't remember.
Yeah, let's just start over because it was an hour ago and clearly no one remembers.
I was
by the
about
time
to
we get to
ask.
Vexia, we'll probably have to cover Cauldron again because that'll have been an hour ago.
I've smoked a lot of weed since then and now, so if we could
All
just
right.
start at the top.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. I'll
Does
see you guys.
Officer Nam have anything to add?
So,
Officer Nim?
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 Grats Nim?
Wait, is that a real thing?
No.
Why you
Nim
think
doesn't
that?
want to be an officer.
Potato officer?
happy birthday, Bleed, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't know if I believe it's your birthday. But I'm gonna happy birthday just in case anyway. Happy birthday,
Thank you.
buddy.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I've got